Amanda.
And I'm Ita.
This is our 8th book chat episode, and today we are joined by librarian Sarah Dean. So we'll start with Sarah. Can you give us a brief introduction of yourself and why you've joined us today, Sarah?
Sure can. I'm the Katingal Library and Community Facility Officer. I also work at Tamworth with Ita and Amanda, and I've joined Book Chat today to talk about books, of course.
Good answer.
Yes. So we've generally covered this in all our other episodes, but because it's your first time with us, Sarah, we just would like to know why you read.
Yeah, I read as a way to have some time to myself, some quiet time to read. I also read to learn, and just as a hobby or something that I enjoy doing.
Same.
Yeah.
Yes. Pure escapism.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And for me also to experience different cultures.
Yeah.
Yeah, and different times.
Yes.
Yeah, especially now.
Travel without leaving your couch.
Yeah, right, because we can't really travel now. So yeah, cheapest form of travel really.
That's it, yes.
Yes.
Takes you into all different worlds.
Yes, even fantasy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to start with what you've enjoyed reading lately and what is the one you would most likely recommend to other readers. So Ita, what are you reading lately?
So I had to go back on my Goodreads because I've forgotten. I've read 4 books this month, since our last book chat.
Yes.
And the one I would recommend most likely, actually I had 2 5-stars. So there's 2 I would recommend most likely. This one, Paris Library. And it's just what we talked about before. You'd experience different times because it's set in World War II, and you experience different culture because it's set in Paris. And it is actually the American library in Paris.
Wow.
Yes, and it is written by an American lady that actually works at the American Paris Library. It's called the American Library in Paris or something like that. I've read 3 books after that, so correct me if I'm wrong. So I loved it because, libraries and books I love that. But it's really well written. It's very well researched, and I thought it was just a made-up story until I got to the end and read that it was actually based on a true story.
Okay.
And bits and pieces made up to make it into a nice story. But a lot of these people actually existed and went through it, and it made me proud to be a librarian because they kept the people in the war zone. They kept them entertained and worked on their mental health. So they sent books to the prisoners of war, or the people that couldn't leave their homes, so the Jewish people and stuff. So I thought that was amazing. Yeah. There's a lot of Dewey numbers in there, but I'm a library nut, so I'm quite happy with that. So I don't know if people that are not interested in libraries would like it that much, but I would recommend this to anyone that wants to travel from home, that wants to experience a different time frame. So this is World War II, who likes a well-written book. And what else did I write down? Oh, I wrote down, I recommend this for lovers of books and libraries, which is us 3 anyway.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes, that's right.
That's it. And the other one I finished last night because I thought, I'm so close to the end, I want to finish it before we have our book chat. And that is Tanya Hislop's Alice to Cry. No, that's the first one. Beyond Alice.
Yes.
So that's her 3rd memoir, and this covers the time she's in boarding school in Adelaide in the mid-70s. So for me, I wasn't in Australia then. So for me, it's completely alien. So for me, that was traveling back in time and traveling to another country. And Tanya writes so full of love about the people. So you really get to know them. So I would recommend that book to anyone that likes memoirs, that likes Australiana. I just loved it. Yeah. I read 2 more, but I won't go into them. But it was The Ruin
Yes.
And I picked that up as an audiobook because the one I wanted to read wasn't available yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I picked it up because everybody I know loves it. And then I remembered that I don't actually like murder mysteries,
Yeah.
but I liked it enough to finish it.
Yeah.
So I gave it 3 stars only because I don't like murder mysteries.
Right.
And I would recommend it to anyone that likes murder mysteries. Yeah. And the last one, sorry, take up all your time. 2 Steps Onward by Graham Simpson and Viewers. That one was sent to me by the publisher, so I thought, oh, I better read it. And it's a follow-up to 2 Steps Forward.
Okay.
And the cover is nearly the same. So you think, why are they sending me this again? Because the cover is nearly the same and the title is nearly the same.
Right.
So 2 steps forward and then 2 steps onward.
Mm-hmm.
It's very similar, but it picks up the same story, or it picks up the same characters a little bit like a year or 2 later or 3 years later.
Yeah.
And they do another walk. So the first one was the Santiago de Compostela walk, the Pilgrim walk. And this one is the one in France all the way to Rome.
Yeah.
And then in the end, you find out that the authors actually did that walk just before COVID hit. So they finished their book in February 2020, got back on the plane to Australia just in time.
Very lucky.
Very lucky, but I was so jealous that they still had the freedom to do that walk. And I just wanted to be there. So I would recommend it to anyone that likes stories about travel, that likes stories about relationships, because it's about Zoe and Martin, but also their relationship with their friends and their daughters and their ex-partners and stuff.
Yeah.
And if you like a sense of place, because you're really there on that walk with them.
Yeah.
Yes. So what have you been reading?
So I have read that I'm going to talk about 2 books. One was The Invisible Girl by Lisa Jewell. It's the first book I've read by Lisa Jewell, but I've heard that her books are quite good. So The Invisible Girl is a psychological mystery / drama. It's told, the story is told by 3 different characters. One is a married woman with 2 teenage children. One part of the story is told by a 17-year-old girl, and then one part is told by a 30-something male, and all their lives kind of intertwine by they all live in the same area in London, and there's been a spate of sexual assaults in that area, and there's quite a lot of suspects, and during this time the 17-year-old girl goes missing. So secrets and lies start to unravel. It didn't get me hooked as such. Like I found it quite an easy read, and I did finish it in a good time, but it wasn't a page turner as such. But I was still keen to find out what happened. I'd definitely go back and read more of Lisa Jewell's books, as other reviews, they did state that this book was probably not the best.
So is it a series or is it all standalone books?
No, it's all standalone books. So yeah, they said that it was probably the least gripping of her books that she's written. But I would recommend that book to people that are after kind of a psychological mystery family drama. Even though it is about, you know, a missing teenager, and you know, there is a spate of sexual assaults. It's not a grisly, you know, murder mystery that you would normally get in a thriller. So, yeah. And then the other one is The Book of Two Ways by Jodi Picoult.
Oh, yeah.
I do normally like Jodi Picoult books. I kind of found this one was my least favorite. I just couldn't engage because, you know, normally they are about themes that are quite controversial.
Yeah.
And it kind of gets you thinking a different way about the topics. I kind of found this one was not one of those books.
Okay.
So it centers around the main character, Dawn Edelson. She is a death doula.
A
So
what?
a death doula. So it's kind of like a social worker, and but people hire her out to spend time with them before they pass. So
It's like an equivalent of a midwife, but for palliative care sort of thing.
yeah, so it's and they hire her for whatever reason. So she's not like medical. It's not medical training where she gives them subscribes meds or anything like that. It's just purely a social work side of things. And in the first, it's not a spoiler, but in the prologue of the book, she experiences a life-changing experience, which is a plane crash. And so she, I guess, starts to question her life's decisions. So the book is kind of split between her life in Boston and her life in Egypt. So think of it as a sliding doors moment, but at the end it kind of comes together, where she kind of isn't in alternate worlds from that. I thought the plot jumped around a little too much for my liking, and the chapters were quite long. There's also a lot of information and facts about Egyptian symbolism, because she was studying to be an Egyptologist, and she had, when she was younger, she'd gone over to Egypt to, kind of like archaeology thing. Something happened that brought her back to America, and that's why the sliding doors moment type of thing happens. But I won't go into too much detail because that will spoil. But and then her husband's also a scientist, and so there was a lot of information about quantum physics. And I kind of understand why she used it, because it was a way, I guess, for her to explain, relationships and love. But I kind of think it took it away from the actual story, about, getting second chances, the love between family, the mother and daughter, and, finding your true soulmate. So I think that for me was a bit of a down for the whole Egyptian symbolism and the quantum scientific.
Yeah, because usually she's really into delving really deep into relationships.
Yes, and I kind of thought that was a bit lost. Or maybe, I don't know if I then just lost interest in that. But I probably, I would recommend it for Jodie Picoult fans. But yeah, I did kind of think that it fell a little flat in comparison to her other stories, because it kind of didn't leave you feeling, well, what would you do in that situation type of.
So why did you pick that book up?
So I had it sitting on my bookshelf.
She has a big bookshelf.
And so I have a big bookshelf, and I just keep buying books. So I gave myself a little challenge, and because it's June, I decided that I would read books that were on my bookshelf with a J.
So well done.
So a title for J, or an author with a J in it, because I thought, that's a way for me to start reading
random
books, and books that have been sitting on my shelf for a while that I haven't picked up for whatever reason. So that's why I chose.
Oh, I'm glad I asked that question. I would have never guessed.
So I'm setting myself a July challenge. My July challenge is going to be finish off a book series that I've started. Okay. So normally when I read a book series, I have a break in between. But I thought, you know what, I'm just going to get stuck into one series.
Do you already know which one?
Well, I was looking at Bridgerton
Oh, okay.
because I
yeah.
watched the TV series.
Yes, you have to read the book
before I
first.
read the books, or the Shadow and Bone series. It's also on Netflix because that quite looks like it as well. And I had the first book of each one.
Ah, cool. Yeah.
All right, let's hand over to Sarah.
Okay. So I've read 3 books in the past month. The first one was Where the Crawdads Sing for our book club.
Yes, for our book club.
I enjoyed that. It was very descriptive, and you could definitely tell she was a nature writer, first and foremost. So I liked that. The second book is Return to Uluru. That was by Mark McKenna. It's a non-fiction title. That was my favourite for the month, so I'll come back to that one. And the last one I read was, or actually listened to this one. This one was Our Chemical Hearts by Crystal Sutherland, and it's a YA novel. And I picked it as an easy, cheesy read. So that was my easy listening book. But my favourite would definitely have to be Return to Uluru. So the author had intended to write a history of the centre of Australia surrounding Uluru. And upon his research, he come across a murder that had occurred practically in Uluru. So I won't go into detail as well because that's what the whole book's about. But it's an Indigenous man by the name of Yakanana, was shot in 1934 by a policeman by the name of Bill McKinnon. So the story ends up revolving around their 2 lives and how it's central to how Australia views Uluru and the 2 perspectives that we sort of have on our past. So you have your settlers or white Australia viewpoint, and then you have your Indigenous. And I think it's a great book for truth telling, because that's something that we don't have a lot in our history, is telling the truth about what's happened in our history. Parts get covered up. So this is a great book because you get the 2 sides and it's unbiased viewpoints. The author incorporated the families in the story, so they were consulted, which I thought was extremely important. And yeah, I think it was tied up well at the end, in giving you a rounded view of how we've got to the point that we are today, and particularly in Uluru's history of where we've got to the treaty and the taking down of the chains and stuff for walking on Uluru. All of that was discussed throughout the book, and I found it very, very interesting.
So what was it called again, Sarah? Sorry?
That was Return to Uluru by Mark McKenna. So definitely recommend it to anyone who loves your non-fiction.
Yeah.
It's well researched, which I thought was great. So you can go and look at the sources that he's read. He had an interview with one of the relatives that had been a part of the incident. So you can see that on YouTube as well. So that was a great little, aside. So you can take a break from that, go watch the video and come back and read the rest of the book. So yeah.
So what time period is that book set in then? Is it a long
so it starts just as the policeman's beginning his career. So it talks about how he got to becoming a Central Australia police officer. He was doing camel patrols in the Northern Territory area. So it discusses how he got to that point, his full career, and the I don't know whether it was a royal commission or an investigation anyway into this particular incident and the outcomes of that, and then right up to present day COVID, of how that impacted him and his ability to write his book, communicate with the families that were involved and things like that. Yeah.
So is the author the policeman? Or?
No, so
okay, cool.
he just was interested in the history of Central Australia and just stumbled across this story.
Interesting.
So does the author have a background in journalism or just purely?
I can't remember the title of one of his previous books, but he's sort of done like Australian history writing. He's intending to write a 3rd book to sort of tie it all together, and I think it's his story is what his 3rd book will be. So I'm not sure quite what his background is, but
yeah. So is that a new book? Is that how you?
Yes, that was a new book. So the cover stood out to me when I'd seen it come through the library, and I was like, oh, I have to read that. And then I actually had forgotten about it and saw it on a recommended book list. I think it was for Reconciliation Week. I was like, oh, that's right, I wanted to read that, so I picked it up again.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So it's a library book. That's good to
Yeah.
know. Mine were all library books except for the new one that's not out yet.
Yeah.
That's great. And what did you think about the Crawdads? Because I didn't get to do the book club.
Yeah.
And I love that book. You loved it too, didn't you?
As well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved the two stories that merged towards the end. So I like that you get the little break from hearing about Kaya's story and you got to hear the police investigation. I thought that was great, the way that that was done. Again, I liked the descriptive writing of, like, you felt like you were right there in the marsh with Kaya. I thought that was good. And I just enjoy the historical setting, so stuff that's not present day.
Yes, yeah. That's a double escapism, like a different time and a different place.
Yeah.
Like, you would never visit a marsh, like,
no,
you know, that's not something on my to-do list, but it's so interesting to see how she lived. And it was written in a way that you could just keep reading.
Yes.
You didn't have to think too much. It was beautifully written, I thought. Yeah.
And I was even shocked to read, like, that it was in the 1970s, but there was still that racism rife, like that they weren't allowed to cross over.
Yeah.
Which flabbergasted me, like that still was going on during that time.
Yeah.
I think officially it wasn't there, but for, you know, if you lived through it, in practice it was still like that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And the other one you've read, Sarah, you said it's a YA, so people that are not in libraries, can you just explain what that is, please?
So it's a young adult fiction, so targeted at teenagers, and just a typical teenage romance and centered in a school. Yeah.
Oh, cool. I do love my YA for escapism.
Yeah.
But the last YA I had picked up was Ghost Bird.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, which Amanda didn't think was scary at all. And I thought it was so scary because I have this big imagination. And I just, I cannot read this in the dark. I had to read it during the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was YA as well. But sometimes it's just nice because you don't have, you know, it's more gentle sometimes.
I think so. I think you can get a lot of well-written
adult for sure
books.
And with Ghost Birds, I like that it was original author, so it was in the first voice and a different perspective. I really enjoyed that, but scary. So unless you're Amanda, because she likes stories.
I do like this. Stories.
Yeah, and I also picked that one up because I seen on the cover that it said that it was a movie or going to be a movie, and I was like, okay, I'll watch it when I've finished reading it.
What was the title for that one again?
Our Chemical Hearts.
Yes, so they've just also started filming Where the Crawdads Sing. So I'm excited about
it's a Reese Witherspoon one again?
Yeah.
Cool.
It'd be interesting to see what they do with
it.
Sometimes I'm always, like, I know that you can never get a movie that truly depicts a book.
Yeah.
But I still get nervous when you absolutely love a book and they do.
And you have in mind what the characters look like and sound like, and
That's, I think, why sometimes I really like reading the book first.
Oh, always.
Because I think when I see a movie, I'm like, oh, no, I don't think I'll pick that book up.
I always like reading the book first, but with the dressmaker that we have in the gallery now, I had seen the movie first, so then the book was disappointing for me because I didn't get to imagine it myself. So it's nothing to do with the book. It was because I did it in the wrong order for me. Yeah, for sure. So are you reading something at the moment, Sarah?
Yes, listening to something at the moment. I'm listening to The Other Bennett Sister by Janice Hadlow, and it's read by Kristen Atherton. And she does a great job at voice acting, and so I'm enjoying it heaps. So it tells the story of Mary Bennett, which is how would you describe her? She's the least prettiest of the sisters, I believe, the one that wears the glasses and sits in the back and doesn't get much notice. And I love it because you get to relive Pride and Prejudice again, but from someone else's perspective. So you get all the funny scenes that come through in the original story. But yeah, so I'm really enjoying that one.
The other Bennet sister. So who is it by?
That's by Janice Hadlow.
I love Pride and Prejudice, so
I haven't read it as yet. I've got it on my shelf to read.
oh, can you read it for you, July? No, it's not a series.
No.
And there's no J in it.
No, there's no J.
No,
So there is.
there is Pride and Prejudice. Yeah, this.
Yeah. I started rewatching the BBC series as well because that's my favourite interpretation of the book. So
Okay.
Okay.
I rewatched that to remind myself of what bits were correct to the original story. So, yeah.
Right. I once read, I think I was working at Hornsby Library then, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Oh, okay.
That was ridiculous, but it was just so ridiculous that it was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there's Elizabeth, you know, kicking zombies and chopping their heads off and whatever. And there's Mr. Darcy, and you know, it's just lovely. But it is ridiculous. So it's not something, you know, not something highbrow. But if you just want to have a laugh and revisit the book from another angle,
perspective.
Yeah, it's just funny.
Well, I got the box set of all Jane Austen.
Oh, Jane Austen.
So I've read Persuasion.
Okay.
Because the reason I got it is because when I travelled over to England in 2019, we went to the Jane Austen
Festival?
Yes, and went and had high tea at the little kind of museum.
Yeah.
Costumes and that. So I thought I should actually read some of her books. Yes. So, yeah. So
I think I've read all of them. Jane Austen by now. But you forget which one's which.
Yes.
And then when you get it, you go, oh, I know I've read this one.
It took me a while to get into Persuasion because there's kind of like their wording.
Yeah.
It's a lot of rigmarole about coming out with what you actually mean.
Yes.
Where in other, today's language, it's just like tell it straight.
Yes.
With a few descriptions. So I was getting a bit frustrated.
I had that same reaction to Taming of the Shrew.
Okay.
Because I read a modern version of Good Girl or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to see what the original was, and I was listening to it, and I go, oh my God, this is so old-fashioned. And then I go, oh, duh, of course, it's Shakespeare. Of course it's old-fashioned. But yeah, I just got frustrated with it. It's just tell me what you mean.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
I know.
Yeah, but those books still have value. They still have a good story.
Yeah.
One of my favorites is Emma, because it's just, she's so oblivious.
Yeah, I've only watched the movie with Gwyneth Paltrow.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Emma, but I haven't read the book yet.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, that's one a really nice, gentle story. You just think, just wake up, girl. What a clever. But yeah, it's really gentle and fun. Yeah, I like it. Every now and then, you always have to go back to James. Well, I do. Yeah.
So, what are you reading now?
I'm reading, I think it was a Reese Withers. Yeah, it is actually. Yeah. It's on the sticker.
Got that one too.
It is The Henna Artist by L.K. Joshi. I didn't even know. So this is set in India. So another escape travel book. And I think it's in the late 1800s, but I could be wrong. Let me just see. She has the dates on it, I think. Maybe she doesn't. Let's see. Yeah, 1955. So what did I say? I'm only about 100. I'm only about 100 years old. But it's also old-fashioned. So, for me, it's the 1800s. But it's set in India, so you can just smell all the smells and see all the colors. And it's a feisty lady that is the main character. But then she finds out she has a younger sister, and all the drama starts. So it puts you in India, which I really love, but it also explores relationships. So between sisters, between friends, between husband and wives, and all set in a completely different culture than what I'm used to. So for me, it's really interesting to read. And I actually picked it up while I was reading Beyond Alice, because I found I can't leave Australia because, you know, of COVID, and I'm
Yes.
reading a book about Australia, and I just needed a little bit of an escape.
Yep.
So I picked this up in between. So I've been reading a chapter of Beyond Alice, a chapter of The Henna Artist, just to swap and change. So then I could
Break it
enjoy
up.
both.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was, and then oh, that's too much India. Let's go back to Australia.
Yeah.
So this one, see, I've nearly finished as well,
Yeah.
because they sort of went together. But oh, I love it. Yeah. I'm definitely finished that one, and I'll let you know next time, you know, how I will score it and who I will recommend it to.
Yeah.
Anyone really that likes Reese Witherspoon.
Yes, there's only really a couple of books that I haven't thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah.
I think she does pick some really good.
Yeah, and not always.
Thought-provoking.
Yes,
books.
thought-provoking.
Yeah.
The Crawdads was one of hers too.
Yes.
And I had that out a couple of times, and every time I read the back and I go, no, I don't feel like it. No, I don't feel like it. And then when I finally read it, I go, oh my God, I can't put it down.
Yeah.
Because it was just, I just loved it. Yeah.
It reminded me of The Secret Life of Bees, which I really enjoyed. I know it's set a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I love The Secret Life of Bees too. Yeah. Is it by somebody Monk?
Yes, Sophie, I think it is.
Sophie, yeah. I really, it's also about strong women.
Mm.
Yeah, and how they look after each other.
Yes.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, I've seen the movie The Secret Life of Bees.
Oh, really? I didn't even know it was a movie. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I have to watch it.
You will.
Yes. What are you reading?
But
about?
I've got the 3 books on my bookshelf that you.
The Paris Library, Beyond Alice, and Henna Artist. Well,
Yes.
there you go.
So
We must have good taste.
we do. Well, because I need something with J, I'm currently reading The Jade Lily by Kirsty Menny, and it has been on my bookshelf for a while. So Kirsty is originally a Tamworth girl. So this was her second book that she has written. The first one was Midsummer Garden, which I read.
I haven't read
really
that one.
enjoyed. So this is in a dual timeline. So the first timeline is set in the 1930s, where Hitler has just come into power and is removing the Jews from Austria and Germany. And then the second half is set in 2016. So in the 1930s, it follows a young girl, Romy. And then in 2016, it follows her grandchild, Alexandra. And so I've only read to page 118. So from what I've read, it's going to be where Alexandra is determined to trace her grandparents' past. So I think that's where it will lead. But I am a fan. I really like historical novels, because I kind of find I'm not an overly big non-fiction reader. So it gives me a chance to find out, what happened and history, and so I use them for educational purposes as well as escapism. And it's well written. So because I know sometimes people find dual timelines very frustrating.
It can be.
Yeah, but I'm really enjoying it. So,
I've enjoyed that one. I read it probably when it came out. It was a few years ago.
It was 2018.
Yeah,
because
so
she's
3
got
years ago.
two more books out now. Yeah.
I think we've had, did we have any? Yeah, we have a book club kit of that one.
Yes.
Yeah, so I read it for book club, and I really enjoyed it. It's another one that takes you to another time, takes you to another country. There's a theme going here, isn't there? But I think during this time in the world, everybody needs that escapism, because you can't just hop on a plane and go wherever you want to go. Now we can go to New Zealand, that's as far as we can go.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to travel in your mind then, isn't it?
Yeah. Or even reading Tanya His Lips Beyond Alice.
Yeah.
Like I have never been to Alice Springs,
Yeah.
did not know what to expect. And it was just great.
Yeah.
You know, you just thought you were on the property and
Yes, she writes really descriptive. And what I really love, she really writes with love and about the people that she knows, but also she writes with really blunt honesty about herself.
Yeah.
You know, she doesn't sugarcoat it. So when she's being the goody-goody, or she doesn't dare something, or she's feeling very vulnerable, she will write that. And I had a tear in my eye a few times, but also laughing out loud because, you know, the way she describes things.
Yeah.
And we've met her, well, through Zoom.
Yes.
Yeah.
A few times, and she's just lovely.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and then to read, you know, where she came from, I think that's just amazing.
Yeah.
To grow up on a property, and then in the end, she becomes a lawyer, goes to Prague and all that sort of stuff. It's anyone can be anyone.
Yes. Yeah.
Really, you can be what you want to be.
Yeah.
But you just have to choose. I suppose you can't do everything.
Yeah. And I think that's why I quite like her books too. Like she has such passion for
Oh,
life.
yes. Oh, yes.
And experiencing life.
Yeah.
Sometimes I kind of find if you do read some people's biographies, they can kind of just be a little bit
Depressing, yes.
Or you read and go, seriously? Is that
Yeah.
did that? But yeah, I just kind of find it like you're having a conversation with her and she's telling you about, you know, who she was and what she's doing. And
you could sit with her for hours, really.
Yeah.
To just chat. But I found in the beginning when she has to go from the property to the boarding school, she's so lonely, so sad, so shy. I was just going, oh, little Tanya. I just felt so sorry for her. Yeah. But I can't imagine, because I just grew up as a city girl in Holland. So, you know, I could walk to school and I had the same friends from primary to high school, basically. So it's just, I couldn't imagine being that lonely and not knowing how to express yourself with all these other girls that were in the boarding school who must have been feeling the same thing, but they just couldn't, like in the end, they're all friends, but it took a while. Especially
because she's come from a place that was so
isolated.
Isolated. And basically, you know, coming from a place where she's had, you know, acres and acres to roam and into a classroom and these boarding school rooms, that must be.
Because Sarah, before the boarding school, she had the School of the Air. So they just had you know, classroom at home where they went in, and then with the walkie-talkies or however that works, I don't know.
Well, no wonder she felt the way she did.
Yes. So it was, and she grew up with all these books that she read, the Enid Blyton books about boarding school. So she had this really fun idea about boarding school. Yeah. And it wasn't. Not to start with, and I always just felt so sorry for her.
Yes, I look forward to reading that after my month of July.
well, no, there's no J in there. No.
But it's not a series.
Yes, it is actually a series if you think about it. Yeah, because there's three biographies, but it starts the one Alice to Prague, so she's in her late 20s. So that one I really enjoyed, because for me it was my experience back to front, because I was in my late 20s when I came to Australia, and she was an Australian come to Europe. So we had sort of similar but back to front experiences. So for me, it was really interesting to read. Yeah, for sure. Cool. Okay. Well, we still have time, but I think we've talked about all our books, haven't we?
I think because we're missing now
regulars. So Sarah's here. We're missing Peter and Susan, who normally come. But we're going to change our date, aren't we?
Yes, we are. So due to other commitments, we will be changing our book chat Zoom meetings to Thursdays. So please join us for the next meeting on Thursday, the 15th of July at 11 a.m. So come with your questions and book chats. If you haven't already signed up for our book chat blog for the books we have discussed, you can today. And you can also subscribe to our podcast, which is available on Google Podcasts and on Apple Podcasts. So if you do, please take the time to give us a review, as that will help other people find the Book Chat podcast. And we hope to see you next month.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah, for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.
See you next month.
See you.